Hello everyone, welcome to the 14th of our CIMA P3 Performance Strategy lecture recaps. So this one was on information management, and the first aspect of this we looked at was the steering committee. Why do we need a steering committee? Well, what they'll do is they'll plan, monitor and control your information systems, information technology and information management strategies. They'll undertake the risk assessments related to that. They'll check if there's any competitive issues. Do you need to do things to keep up with the competition? Are you achieving the objectives you've set? Is it resourced and funded? And develop any plans that you have. So that's the purpose of the steering committee. How do we structure this then? Well, we'll have a chair who will be a board member. We'll get the senior managers involved because they will need to know what the plans are. You'll need the senior IT staff to be able to tell you if you can implement it. And then you'll need the finance manager to tell you that you can't afford it. Okay, not really, he may tell you can. Okay, the problems with this then, well, you lack experience and skills on that board. There's probably a lack of communication. Steering committees tend to be bad at communicating ideas. And it may be better just to have a single manager in charge of information management. Okay, so that's the steering committee. Some internal solutions then to information management. Data processing, first of all, well, you may have a centralized data processing system where you have a specialized center who keeps tight control of all the data and keeps their expertise centralized. This is as opposed to having end user computing. Now, end user computing is where you have local terminals and a network which connects them all together. So the advantages of having end user, well, the user is usually satisfied because they have a bit more control. They have local control over all of their data as well, and you can downsize your IT function so it may be cheaper. Disadvantages though, well, you can't develop any major projects because you don't have the IT function, so you lose your IT function. You've relaxed control because it's not all centralized, and you may still need external expertise. If you have end user computing, you may need an information center if you have a big enough business. This will be to support the end users. It'll provide project assistance if there are projects undertaken. It'll give training on using the system and advice. And also it will maintain the system for you. So that was data processing. Data warehousing then, how do you keep all that data that you have? Well, you probably have an integrated database. The structure of this will be that you'll have central data storage, i.e. a big data center where all of the information is stored. And then the branches that you have will be able to access this. Now, the advantages of doing this over, say, holding the data at each individual local center are that you have a lower volume of data at those centers, lower storage costs because it's all centralized. You can amend the data centrally as well. The user will have more confidence because they know that the centralized function has filtered the data. You should have better controls again because it's centralized, and better consistency. Disadvantages of doing this though, you'll need the hardware and software to do it, which can be expensive. You'll need training to enable someone to be able to do all of this data cleansing, and that's the thing, you have to cleanse this data and make sure that it's all useful. Lastly, if it's all centralized, you tend to get a slower response than if you had it all at the end user's terminals. So that was our internal solutions. What about external solutions? Well, when we talk about external solutions, really what we're talking about is outsourcing our IT or our information management. Why would we do this? Well, IT may be our non-core activity. It's not something that we generally do. We may have a shortage of specialists, and a lot of countries in fact have a shortage of specialists, so simply aren't enough IT specialists to go around. You may want to fill temporary gaps as well that aren't always going to be there, and there's no point in you setting up a function to fill them. And there's no permanent staff required if you outsource. So total outsourcing then. Total outsourcing, a host outsources out all of its IT function. So you as a business outsource all of your IT. It all goes to one provider, and they provide a fixed service level that's agreed with them. They'll also provide it for a fixed time period at an agreed cost. This is as opposed to multiple or selective outsourcing. This is where you have a range of suppliers. You then get competitive quotes off each of these suppliers, and for example you will do this for maybe training your staff, providing support, or for the maintenance of your system. So those will be examples of places that you may have multiple or selective outsourcing. Lastly, you may have a joint venture. Now this is where you basically share the risk and reward of your system and your IT function with another party. It'll generally though be for a specific purpose. For example, if you're developing software, you may say, look, we want you to develop this software. You can then retain some of the copyright to it and sell it to other businesses similar to us. And in that way you have a joint venture with your IT outsourcer. So pros and cons of outsourcing. Well, the upside of outsourcing is that it may be cheaper. It's more responsive because they will have the expertise. It's flexible. If you need more done, they should be able to provide it. They will have all the skills required. You can control the contract and what you want from them, and it leaves you able to focus on core activities rather than worrying about your IT function. On the other hand though, you do lose the expertise within the business. You lose control of your IT function. You may have difficulty enforcing a contract and you rely a lot on the outsourcer. And there may be differing goals and culture within the outsourcing firm which don't exactly tie in with how you do things yourselves. So with that in mind, how do we manage our outsourcing relationship? Well, first of all, in the tendering process, in the invitation to tender, what you'll do is give some information about your organisation, what your systems requirements are, and what information you require from the people who want to outsource for you. You then will evaluate their tender document. You'll look at the technical performance that they can give you. You'll look at the costs that they can do it for, and you'll look at the customer support that they can provide before you decide who you're going to use as your outsourcer. So once you've got your outsourcer, you're going to have to manage the relationship. You'll do this through a service level agreement, and what this will outline is the systems that are covered. Do they have a help desk or some form of support? The performance standards that you expect and demand, and the deadlines to which they have to act. Issues that generally come up surrounding service level agreements. Well, it's hard to maintain the performance. You need to keep pressure on your outsourcer to make sure that they keep up their performance standards. You need to provide them with reasonable timescales to do things. Licensing software, there may be issues where you want to license software and the outsourcer wants a share of that. Copyrights, you need to make sure not to infringe any copyrights. And if you're transferring to a new outsourcer, how do you cancel the contract? You need to get that into your service level agreement. Remember that if you do outsource, you're probably going to lose staff because you won't need the IT specialists that you have. So have a contingency plan for doing that. Okay, that was our lecture on information management.